Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This lecture is about post-structuralism and deconstruction. This lecture again will be a brief lecture for 6th semester, and it will not be fully explained here. Perhaps in lecture number 2 of post-structuralism and deconstruction, this is lecture number 1, but in lecture number 2, I'll try to explain it in detail for the 8th semester, because in 8th semester students also do their research and they apply this post-structuralism or deconstruction theory. So therefore that detail will be done later on in the next lectures. For now, we will try to understand what is meant by post-structuralism and deconstruction, and what is the relationship of deconstruction with critics like Derrida. Before this, we have studied structuralism. The structuralists believed that language is very well formed, and that language is the research on language is done scientifically. It is something which has a definite meaning, and that it can talk about the reality, and its meaning is definite. This was the belief of the structuralists. They also thought that a word or something cannot be looked at separately from its context, and that its context is important. But for this lecture, it is important to understand that the structuralists believed that language is well formed, there's nothing wrong with it, it can give you definite meaning, and it's okay. The post-structuralists and the deconstructionists, both of them, they dropped this idea that language is well formed, and that it has a definite meaning, and that there shouldn't be any skepticism about it. This idea was dropped, and language was skeptically viewed at. So we are discussing post-structuralism or deconstructionism in less detail in this lecture number 1. If we could explain this one paragraph to you, and if you could understand this one paragraph, even this is enough for 6th semester, because you are taking the exam on 17th tomorrow. So therefore this much would be enough for the time being. ये उर्दू में सुन लें, हम पढ़ेंगे पोस्ट स्ट्रक्चरलिज्म और डीकंस्ट्रक्शनिज्म, जो कि दोनों एक ही चीज़ है, और ये जो इसका नाम है पोस्ट स्ट्रक्चरलिज्म, जिसका मतलब है स्ट्रक्चरलिज्म के बाद, तो स्ट्रक्चरलिस्ट जो थे उनका भी ये था कि जो लैंग्वेज है वेल फॉर्म्ड है, और ये रियलिटी को एक्सप्लेन कर सकता है, ये डेफिनेट मीनिंग रखता है। पोस्ट स्ट्रक्चरलिस्ट इसके बिल्कुल उलट थे, आप इसको रिबेलियन कह दें, और ये इनके खिलाफ थे, और इन्होंने कहा कि नहीं, लैंग्वेज जो है ये ज़रूरी नहीं है कि अपनी डेफिनेट मीनिंग रखे, और जो मेन आइडिया है डीकंस्ट्रक्शनिज्म और पोस्ट स्ट्रक्चरलिज्म का, वो यही है कि लैंग्वेज जो है वो ज़रूरी नहीं है कि डेफिनेट मीनिंग रखे, और इसी को हम यहाँ पे लेंगे और एक्सप्लेन करेंगे, ताकि एटलीस्ट इस एक पैराग्राफ की समझ आपको आ जाए. So let us try to understand this paragraph, which says that post-structuralism or structuralism, both of them, they are actually based on the linguistic theories of Ferdinand de Saussure. This is one idea, that structuralism and post-structuralism both are based on the linguistic theories of Ferdinand de Saussure. Now we'll try to find out what is his theory or linguistic theory. of Ferdinand de Saussure. The specifically important item here as far as Ferdinand de Saussure is concerned is the concept of signifier and signified. Linguistic items, words for example, or linguistic signs. For example, if you take the word tree, T-R-E-E, this word, which is a symbol, or we say it is a signifier, Ferdinand de Saussure says, it signifies not the actual tree of the word, but it signifies the concept of the tree. Because even if the tree is not present in front of you, you can at least bring to your mind the concept of the tree. So the signifier TREE signifies the concept of the tree, and tree comes to our mind. It is not important that you have that real tree in front of you. This was the linguistic theory of Ferdinand de Saussure. Structuralists, they also base their theory on the same idea, and they said that language refers to a tree and it gives a definite meaning. Post-structuralism also got the same idea, but their explanation was different. Um, how was it different? We are going to study it now, but you at least now know that Ferdinand de Saussure's idea was that of signifier, TREE, which signifies something, that is a concept that is called signified. Signifier, signified. This was de Saussure's terminology. Secondly, both of these, structuralism and post-structuralism, draw extensively from the deconstructionist theories of Jacques Derrida. Now, Jacques Derrida is very important and a difficult concept to explain. We'll try to simplify it, and we will try not to talk about it in detail in lecture number 1, which is this one. In lecture number 2 and 3, we'll go into the detail of it. Here we will just give the summary which you could at least understand what is meant by Jacques Derrida's deconstructionism or deconstructionist theory. So these two things are important: Ferdinand de Saussure's theory and Jacques Derrida's theory. You got the idea of Ferdinand de Saussure's theory, which is based on signifier and signified, and deconstructionist theory of Jacques Derrida, which we are doing now. The post-structuralist or deconstructionist like Jacques Derrida, they believed and they centered on the idea that language is inherently unreliable. This is now very important. This is post-structuralist idea. This is also Jacques Derrida's idea that language is inherently unreliable. Now we are trying to explain why and how is it unreliable. But remember this phrase: according to Jacques Derrida, according to post-structuralists, language is inherently unreliable. You cannot 100% rely on the meaning the words or the language gives you. This proposition is very important, and you should remember these 4 words, that language is inherently unreliable, according to Jacques Derrida and according to post-structuralists, and does not possess absolute meaning in itself. This language is unreliable and the meaning it gives is not absolute. Remember these 2 ideas of Jacques Derrida or of the post-structuralism, and we are trying to explain this now. How is a language unreliable? Because I am now speaking language, you are listening to it, and whatever I am saying you are understanding. This understanding takes place because language gives you a reliable information. So why is he then telling us that language is inherently unreliable? There are different explanations, but you should take this explanation and try to understand this. Derrida believed that meaning is always delayed, and that one signifier leads you to one signified leads you to another signified. One signifier leads you to the signified, which again leads to another signifier signified. How? For example, you try to explain the word tree to someone who hasn't seen the tree in the world, and you do not have that tree in front of you so that you point to it. So what would you do then? You would try to explain the word tree, T-R-E-E, with the help of other words. So these other words will become the signifiers, signifieds. TREE is signifier, and this signifier will lead to the signifieds. Something which is signified will be actually the other words. For example, if you are explaining the word tree to him or her, you would say there is something which has roots, which has branches, which has leaves. And this signifier tree has led to the signifieds branches, leaves, and roots. Now that person does not understand what is branch. Then what would you do? Because the branch is not present in front of you, then you will explain this word or this signifier branch with the help of other words which will become signified. And in this way, one signifier will lead you to another signified. This another signified will become signifier and will lead you to yet and in this way meaning will be delayed. Meaning will not be given to you. Meaning will become unreliable. Language is inherently unreliable and it doesn't possess absolute meaning in itself. Here's another example. For example, you say run and you ask someone what is the meaning, and he tells you that the meaning of run is dolna in Urdu. Now he tells you that let us see this sentence. He is running a factory. Then how would you fit this meaning of dolna there? Or for example, you put it in a sentence. He is running temperature. How would you fit dolna in this sentence? So you can see it will lose its meaning. There is yet another example that language is inherently unreliable because words and their meanings and the concepts they represent, they have a special relationship with the speaker. For example, someone loves dogs and he uses the word dog, or someone else uses the word dog to him, then his relationship with this word is a good one. And he will love to listen to this word. The idea, the concept it arouses in his mind is that of love. But there is another person who has been bitten by a dog, and as a result, if you say the word dog to him, for him the meaning of dog is something very terrible. So you see, on the one hand, it means something lovable. On the other hand, something hateful, something terrible, something painful. So you see, in this way, meaning is inherently unreliable. There are many other explanations as well. Yeats Derrida is difficult to understand, or not as difficult as you would not be able to understand it, but now I hope you understood that he thinks language is unreliable. Even in our politics, we play with the language. For example, recently it was said that the cyber which came said nothing about conspiracy. It was a kind of intrusion but it wasn't conspiracy. یہ مداخلت تھی، سازش نہیں تھی. This is very strange because the words might have the same meaning. But there can be different explanations. They are used and language is played with, and everybody tries to explain that thing with the help of his own ideas. It is inherently unreliable and it doesn't possess absolute meaning. I have proved this to you now, that it is not reliable and that it doesn't have absolute meaning unless it is explained with other signifiers, which will lead to other signifieds and so on. So this was one idea. میں یہاں پہ یہاں تک اردو میں ایکسپلین کرتا ہوں. یہ کیچڑ میں جانے کے مترادف ہے. ڈیریڈا کو پڑھنا آپ کو ایک ایک لفظ کو، جیسے بیکن کہتا ہے some books are to be tasted, other to be chewed and digested, and yes, Derrida's are to be chewed and digested. تو اس وجہ سے ہم اس کو یہاں تک اردو میں پڑھتے ہیں. ہم نے بات یہ پڑھی کہ اسٹرکچرلزم ہو یا پوسٹ اسٹرکچرلزم ہو، دونوں کی بنیاد لنگوسٹک تھیوری فرڈینینڈ ڈی ساسور کی جو ہے اس پر ہے. تو فرڈینینڈ ڈی ساسور کی جو تھیوری ہے وہ تو ہم کر چکے کہ فرڈینینڈ ڈی ساسور کی تھیوری یہ تھی کہ لنگوسٹک جو آئٹم ہے، لنگوسٹک آئٹم سے مراد لنگوسٹک ورڈ، یہ آپ کو لے جاتا ہے دوسرے لنگوسٹک آئٹمس کی طرف. جو پہلا لنگوسٹک آئٹم ہے، جس طرح ہم نے مثال پڑھی ٹری کی، یہ ایک لنگوسٹک آئٹم ہے. یہ آپ کو اگر ایکسپلین کرنا ہے کسی شخص کو، تو آپ اس کو ایکسپلین کر سکتے ہیں کسی دوسرے لفظ یا الفاظ کی مدد سے. اور یوں آپ فرض کریں کسی شخص کو آپ ایکسپلین کر رہے ہیں لفظ ٹری، ٹیاری، اور اس نے ٹری دیکھا نہیں ہے اور نہ سامنے موجود ہے، تو آپ اس ٹری کی وضاحت کریں گے اور الفاظ کے تھرو. یہ ٹری TREE یہ سگنیفائر بنے گا. جس کانسیپٹ کو یہ ظاہر کرتا ہے وہ سگنیفائڈ کہلائے گا. یہ فرڈینینڈ ڈی ساسور کی تھیوری تھی کہ سگنیفائر ہے TREE، یہ لنگوسٹک سائن ہے اور یہ سگنیفائی کرتا ہے کانسیپٹ آف ٹری کو. ضروری نہیں ہے کہ وہ ٹری ان ریئلٹی موجود بھی ہو. تو ایک تو یہ ہو گیا کہ پوسٹ اسٹرکچرلزم اور اسٹرکچرلزم دونوں کا ڈیپینڈنس یہ فرڈینینڈ ڈی ساسور کی تھیوری پر ہے، اور اس کی تھیوری تھی سگنیفائر اور سگنیفائڈ کی، کہ ایک سگنیفائر ہے لنگوسٹک سائن TREE، یہ ایک چیز، آئیڈیا، کانسیپٹ کو ریپرزینٹ کرتا ہے، اور یہ جو کانسیپٹ ہے یہ سگنیفائڈ ہے. تو یہ استعمال ہوتا دونوں میں. اور اسی طریقے سے دونوں یہ ڈیکنسٹرکشنسٹ تھیوری سے جو کہ یہ ڈیریڈا نے پیش کی ہے اس پہ بھی ڈیپینڈ کرتی ہے. اور وہ تھیوری یہ تھی کہ لینگویج جو ہے یہ انہیرنٹلی اندرونی طور پر انریلائبل ہے، اعتماد آپ اس پہ نہیں کر سکتے، اینڈ ڈز ناٹ پوزیس ایبسولوٹ میننگ ان اٹ سیلف، اور یہ ایبسولوٹ میننگ نہیں رکھتا ہے. تو یہ ایبسولوٹ میننگ کیسے نہیں رکھتا ہے؟ میں نے اس کو ایکسپلین کیا کہ ایبسولوٹ میننگ اس لیے نہیں رکھتا ہے کہ اور انریلائبل اس لیے ہے کہ فرض کریں آپ کو کہا جائے کہ رن کا کیا مطلب ہے، تو آپ کہیں گے دوڑنا. اور اگر آپ کو کہا جائے کہ اب اس میں دوڑنا معنی کہاں ہے، ہی از رننگ اے فیکٹری، یا اس میں کہا ہے ہی از رننگ ٹیمپریچر، تو یہ انریلائبل ہے لینگویج، آپ اس پہ ریلائی نہیں کر سکتے. دوسری بات، लैंग्वेज की जो मीनिंग है ये डिलेड होती जाती है, इसको डिले किया जाता है। मसलन जैसे अभी मैंने बताया, आप किसी को ट्री का माना समझा रहे हैं, उसने ट्री देखा नहीं है, उसको ट्री की समझ नहीं आती, सामने मौजूद नहीं है, तो आप इसके लिए और अल्फाज इस्तेमाल करेंगे, ब्रांच की, लीव्स की, रूट्स की। लेकिन उसने ब्रांच भी नहीं देखी है और रूट भी नहीं, लेकिन लीव्स भी नहीं देखी है, तो आप ब्रांच को एक्सप्लेन करेंगे और वर्ड्स के साथ। एक सिग्निफायर दूसरे सिग्निफाइड की तरफ ले जाएगा, ये सिग्निफायर सिग्निफाइड सिग्निफाइड सिग्निफायर बन के दूसरे वर्ड्स की तरफ आपको ले जाएगा और मीनिंग डिलेड हो जाएगी। लिहाजा ये इनहेरेंटली अनरिलायबल है, मीनिंग पे आप रिलाय नहीं कर सकते लैंग्वेज पे, और इसकी जो मीनिंग है ये भी एब्सोल्यूट नहीं है, ये चेंज हो सकती है बंदे के मुताबिक। मैंने एग्जांपल दी इसकी कि एक बंदा है जिसका तजुर्बा डॉग्स के साथ अच्छा है, वो डॉग्स को पालता है, प्यार करता है, आप उसको डॉग लव्स कहेंगे तो उसका जहन में जो आइडिया उसके जहन में आएगा वो लव का होगा। और अगर आप किसी ऐसे शख्स को बात करेंगे जो डॉग्स ने जिसको काटा हुआ है, तो उसके जहन में डॉग के लिए टेरेबलनेस और नफरत का आइडिया पैदा होगा। तो ये मीनिंग यूं एब्सोल्यूट नहीं है, एक पॉजिटिव हो गया डॉग के लिए, एक नेगेटिव हो गया। तो यूं मीनिंग जो है ये एब्सोल्यूट नहीं है, ये पर्सन टू पर्सन वेरी कर सकती है। ये कॉन्सेप्ट ये एक्सटेरिडा का है, ये अल्फाज आप याद रखें। ये एक्सटेरिडा के मुताबिक लैंग्वेज इज इनहेरेंटली अनरिलायबल एंड डज नॉट पोजेस एब्सोल्यूट मीनिंग इन इटसेल्फ। ये एक अहम आइडिया है। So this much. Now we come to this next sentence which says that meaning lies in intertextuality. This is another of the difficult concept by X Derrida. Um, intertextuality means the attachment or the relationship of one text with the other text. This text may be that of past, this text may be that of future. In future, some text may be written, or in past, some text has been written, and this present text, it may be a poem, it may be a drama, or it may be a novel. This present text actually has a relationship with the past text or with some text which will be written in the future. For example, if we talk about The Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope, The Rape of the Lock is a parody. It is a mock epic. Now, when we say it is a mock epic, which is one text, it has got a relationship with another text that is epic. So you need to refer to the epics of Homer, Iliad, and Odyssey in order to understand this mock epic of Alexander Pope. So as a result, this Rape of the Lock, which is one text, has a relationship with the other text, that is Iliad and Odyssey or the epic, and this relationship is referred to as intertextuality. So text means a poem, drama, or novel. It has a relationship with the other texts. This is called intertextuality, and according to him, meaning actually is present, resides in intertextuality or relationship of the text to the past or future texts. So this meaning cannot be separated from intertextuality. There is interrelationship of these. So intertextuality, another difficult concept. I told you what the meaning is. ये एक लाइन को उर्दू में समझे। In post-structuralist or डेरिडा या डिकंस्ट्रक्शनिस्ट के मुताबिक लैंग्वेज तो मीनिंग नहीं रखता है, ये रिलायबल नहीं है। लेकिन पोस्ट स्ट्रक्चरलिज्म का एक आइडिया ये था कि मीनिंग के लिए आपको इंटरटेक्चुअलिटी को देखना पड़ेगा। एक टेक्स्ट को दूसरे टेक्स्ट के साथ कंपेयर करेंगे, इनका ताल्लुक होता है। हमने मिसाल पढ़ी अलेक्जेंडर पोप की, जिसने द रेप ऑफ द लॉग लिखा। ये मार्क एपिक है। जब हम इसको कहते हैं ये मार्क एपिक है, तो ये एपिक के बगैर एक्सप्लेन नहीं होगा। और एपिक के लिए हम होमर की एलियड और ओडिसी को रेफरेंस देंगे कि ये उसकी पैरोडी है, उसको समझेंगे तो ये समझ आएगी, वरना तो समझ नहीं आएगी। तो ये रिलेशनशिप से मीनिंग पैदा होता है। ये इसका रिलेशनशिप तो पास्ट के साथ हुआ। लेकिन अगर इस पैरोडी की कोई पैरोडी लिखे या रेप ऑफ द लॉग पे कोई चीज लिखे, तो ये फ्यूचर का टेक्स्ट होगा। ये इंटरटेक्चुअलिटी जो है, इससे भी बात या मीनिंग क्लियर हो सकती है इन पोस्ट स्ट्रक्चरलिस्ट और डेरिडा यानी डिकंस्ट्रक्शनिस्ट के मुताबिक। So this one sentence and intertextuality is explained. Intertextuality also means that every text is absorbed and transformed by previous and future text. I explained this idea to you that every text, which means a poem, a novel, a drama, this is a text. It is absorbed in the previous one. For example, the rape of the log was absorbed in the previous one, that is Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, and transformed by previous ones. It can be transformed by the previous ones. And the future text. The future text, we don't know what type of text it would be, but in future something may be written. If something had been written in future, if it is written about the rape of the log, that will be the future text. So there can be a transformation of one text by another. Derrida said, and he postulated, that every concept is necessarily and essentially is inscribed in a chain or a system. I explained this, a chain or system, with reference to signifier and signified. I gave you the example of tree. If you want to explain it to someone who doesn't know what tree is, then you talk about the branches, the roots, and the leaves. TREE becomes signifier, root, branches, leaves become signifieds. These signifieds then need to be explained. So this signified becomes signifier, and you then explain stem. And this is explained with other words, and those other words are explained with other words, and it becomes a chain or a system within which it refers to another and to other concepts by the systematic play of differences. There is a play of differences. The meaning is, as I said, delayed. Signifier is different from the signified. This is the play of differences. This is something written by Derrida. So this idea, he said that the concept, every concept is inscribed in a chain. It is discussed in a chain or a system within which it refers to another and to another concept. I gave you the example. You can write about this example in the exam. No problem. So therefore, whether it is post-structuralism or deconstructionism, both of them say there is no single correct reading of a text. If you are reading a poem, there is no single interpretation. If you are reading a novel or watching a drama, there's no single interpretation. So reading of a text has interpretations can go on almost interminably. A large number of interpretations are possible depending on the reader, one conflicting with the other. So the meaning taken by the person may be different. One meaning taken by one reader, the other meaning is taken by the other reader, and therefore there is no single correct reading of a text. ये जो अभी हमने बात की, डेरिडा ने बात ये कही कि जो कॉन्सेप्ट है یہ چین اور سسٹم کی شکل میں ہمارے سامنے آتا ہے. ہم نے ٹری کی ایگزامپل دی جس میں آپ لیوز اور برانچز اور روٹس کو ایکسپلین کریں گے، تو اگر اس کی سمجھ نہیں آتی تو ان الفاظ کو دوسرے سے ایکسپلین کے دوسرے میننگ ڈیلیڈ ہوگا اور یہ پورا چین بنے گا، سسٹم بنے گا جس میں ایک چیز دوسرے کو ریفر کرے گی، دوسرے تیسرے کو ریفر کرے گی، اور یہ ڈفرینسز کا پلے ہوگا کیونکہ سگنیفائر سگنیفائڈ سے ڈفرینٹ ہوتا ہے. تو دونوں کے مطابق خواہ پوسٹ اسٹرکچرلزم ہو یا ڈیکنسٹرکشنزم ہو، کسی بھی ٹیکسٹ کی ایک ریڈنگ سنگل میننگ یہ نہیں ہوگی، بلکہ اس کی انٹرپریٹیشنز مختلف ہوگی. یہ بالکل الٹ بھی ہو سکتی ہیں کہ ایک کا ایک میننگ لیا جائے اور دوسرے کا دوسرا بندہ اس کا بالکل ایگزیکٹ اپوزٹ میننگ لے. تو یہ ایک مختصر لیکچر آپ اس کو سمجھیں جو کہ 6th سیمسٹر کے لیے ہے فی الحال، تاہم انٹروڈکشن کے طور پہ یہ 8th سیمسٹر کے لیے بھی ہوگا، لیکن یہ ایکسپلینڈ نہیں ہے اور ہم اس کی ایکسپلینیشن پڑھیں گے اور یہ بہت ڈیٹیل سے ہوگا. یہ آپ دیکھ سکتے ہیں کہ اس میں بہت ساری ڈیٹیل ہے، اس میں ساری باتیں آپ کو سمجھاؤں گا، اور یہ ہوگا جب لیکچر نمبر 2 ہوگا اس کا، اور جب وہ ہم پڑھیں گے تو انشاءاللہ یہ ساری ایکسپلینیشن اس کے بعد آپ کو سمجھ آئے گی. دیٹ وڈ بی ان دا نیکسٹ لیکچر. So this much is enough for now. Thank you and good luck.